man. I'm not sure who the hell authorized this, but here we go.
Yeah, I love it.
Looks like the table will turn.
Yep, the tables are turned this time.
All right. Well, you're the host, man. So what's going on here today?
Well, I always thought that it would be a good thing to actually know the host of this podcast. And so I had asked you a couple questions at the end, and I thought, that's not fair enough. We can't have you, 5 minutes worth. No. We got to have a full
You can't let me off easy.
a full
Come on.
interview here. We're going for broke on this one.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just recap for the people that maybe haven't seen the end of my podcast, and let's go a little recap on your first musical or your first albums, your first musical selections. So you had said Alice in Chains and Crisscross.
And crisscross. Yeah. Crisscross will make you jump.
Jump. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. That's Mac Daddy and Daddy Mac used to wear their pants backwards.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to understand how they went to the bathroom, but
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they went number 2, number 1, what 2, what, anyway.
yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Stuff coming out of the wrong holes and everything. Who knows?
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
so then with that one, the next question I asked was the difference between the musical scene, what was Qatar like?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And you basically had stated that kind of everybody knows everybody.
It was I mean, everybody's an expat away from home, and everybody who's a musician kind of knows each other. And yeah, it was a pretty small community, but a very tight community at the time.
Right.
And as a drummer with my own drums, that was also kind of a rare thing. So I got to play with pretty much everybody in Qatar at that point. So
That's kind of it's like the open jams here where everybody is everybody knows everybody, and
Yep.
it's kind of neat.
Creates that jamily.
Yep,
The
the
I like
jamily.
to use that, yeah, and the jamiversary, it's, there's a whole lexicon in our language that's come up around
Yeah,
the open jam
yeah,
created,
exactly.
so, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so then going off of that guitar question, why don't you tell us about your dickhead band, Richard Cranium.
Whoa!
Richard Cranium.
Yeah, I got my
Sorry.
pants on backwards, yeah, I'm not gonna let anybody know about my dickhead.
Band, yeah.
Yeah, so, it was a group of us that got together, in Qatar. I think it started out, there was a guy that I was actually living with, who was also a contractor, and he and I bought a drum set and got it shipped to me. Greatest drum set I ever owned, because I basically got it for free, because at the time, I put a claim in, like, it was maybe a $1,200 drum set, and I put a claim in with, the mailing service, because when it came, there was a small crack in the kick drum, which I believe actually happened when it got shipped. But everything sounded exactly perfect, and if I didn't tell anybody there was a crack there, nobody would ever know, right? But they literally refunded me the entire cost of the drum set, cymbals, drum,
Nice.
everything. So I had this really nice Tama kit, probably the best kit in Qatar at the time. And my roommate was a guitar player, not necessarily a great one. You just kind of fiddled around on the guitar or whatever. So we were jamming, and then I found this other guy named Charles Goodwin, and I invited him to come over, and we kind of started this band thing together. I can't even remember what our first band name was, but it was horrible. Um, um, I mean, I don't remember every step along the way, but I remember that Charles and I really kind of got into it. And Tony, my roommate or whatever, we went out and played a couple gigs, and we were kind of half-assed, you know what I mean? But we were playing gigs and having a good time. But over time, Tony left, and we got a new bass player in named Mike Wright. And Mike was a guy who had been playing in serious bands up until this point. I mean, he was a pop punk guy and very serious, great performer. The reason I really like Shane Twohy is going to be on a little bit later is because he reminds me a lot of Mike and his antics on stage. Very big, crazy, jumping around, just full of energy. And Mike really helped. At some point we changed our band name to Richard Cranium, which we thought was hilarious, and everybody else thought it was hilarious too. But we were the only band that was playing 90s alternative rock. A lot of the bands that were in Doha at this point were, a lot of them were UK, inspired. So there's a lot of blues and a lot of like older stuff and, 70s, even into the 80s rock, but nobody was really doing like the modern young stuff. And here we are, a bunch of young bucks playing in this band, having a good time. And, yeah, I mean, Mike was really the guy I think that kinda he just put a stamp on our band, and he made Charles and I level up our stage show to the point that we were probably not even really the best band in town, but we were definitely the best damn show in town. I mean, we really went fricking nuts. I had a couple I was also known as the hardest hitting drummer in Doha because I still hit my drums probably a little harder than I should. I'm starting to learn a little bit of technique and back off a little bit, but I broke snare drum heads on stage a number of different times, and it just became part of the show. I had one time where I flipped my snare drum over, broke the bottom head as well as I stood up in the middle of the show with my arm through my snare drum and just like a badge of honor. So
Yeah.
luckily somebody else it was a battle of the bands that I had actually organized, and somebody else had a snare and brought it up and we were able to make it
Hopefully an
whatever.
extra head just in case.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I played a little bit friendlier
Oh,
when I was on somebody else's snare. So
there you go. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, so we got and then we had a guy named Al Byrne, a British guy who was actually extremely well connected in the local music scene. And so Al really helped us kind of get into all the different places. And he was our rhythm guitarist, lead guitarist. He was a very, very cool dude. Um, so anyways, he got us into all the different venues and we started playing out quite a bit more. And by all the different venues, there's probably 6 venues total in Doha that you could play at this time. So it's not like a lot of places to play, but at least we got into the cool spots where we could get paid and have a good time and drink a lot of beer and have the ladies chase us. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So that was, one of the band was that your only band in
That was
guitar?
no, I was in a couple of other bands, on and off. I would play with another band from time to time named United Rhythm, but I was never their regular drummer. And they were more like a I mean, they played a lot of, like, big tunes like Santana and played with them a bit. Then Al, after Richard Cranium broke up, and Richard Cranium broke up because all of us that are overseas are there, like, on a contract or a short tour or doing something or whatever. So, when we decided we didn't wanna do Richard Cranium, actually, Charles left Qatar, moved to Bahrain, and then Mike, moved on, did different stuff. So, we weren't really playing together anymore, but then Al formed a blues band, and I played in his blues band for, several years. And then, yeah, I jammed with lots of different fun bands. And even now, until I would say until 2025, I still get calls because of the work that I did over there. Sometimes I get calls to go back over to Qatar. And when I
Mm.
go, I will sit in with some friends or whatever and jam over there, which is really nice.
Oh, yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then, so now let's go back to the beginning then. Obviously, you didn't start playing drums in Qatar. So, when did you start playing drums?
So I, in seventh grade, I believe it would be, I just found myself, they would have pep rallies and stuff at school, where the band comes out and plays. And I was always drawn to the percussion department, if you will, and watching the dudes out there playing like the quads and stuff like that, and just the rhythm and the beat of it. And I would go back and literally in every classroom, my teachers would tell me to stop freaking doing it because I would not stop tapping on the table. And so in eighth grade, I decided, well, I want to try to join the band. And so I joined band in eighth grade in percussion. So I started out on the tom, which is where everybody starts, and then I moved up to snare. And I was never quite good enough to make it all the way up to the quads before I quit playing because I was also playing football at the time. And my dad, like many young musicians who also think they want to be sporty, dad said, "Look, your grades are suffering. You got to pick one or the other." And so I thought I was going to be cool and go play football. Several years later, I don't play football anymore at all, and I still
Right.
play drums. And so, yeah, I started a garage band with some friends of mine. I used to have this, one of my biggest influences, honestly, early on was a friend of mine, Kevin Reeves. So Kevin Reeves' dad was in the Navy service, and, he was also a huge musician. If you walk into he had a room probably as big as my entire office that was just devoted to, like, recreation and band and stuff like that. Album art all the way around, all the way from the ceiling to the floor, and he listened to, like, a lot of older stuff that I wasn't really into, but Kevin also was like his house was just like the place that everybody in the neighborhood went. And so you've got all these young wannabe musicians hanging out, listening to music. I mean, that's where we found Pantera and that's where we found Sepultura. And, we're blasting this shit at full volume because Kevin could do it. His parents were into music and they didn't care about us being loud and rowdy. I mean, we used to put on boxing gloves and go out in Kevin's backyard and beat the shit out of each other. And it's like parents are just like, cool, I mean, as long as we're not really hurting each other, we're just having a great time. But there was so much fun that happened kind of in that environment. And Kevin's house was always kind of like, center mass for all the fun and activities that we were doing.
So this was high schoolish, pre-high school?
Yeah, this is, from 8th grade. I mean, even before 8th grade, I was already hanging out with Kevin. So 7th, 8th grade,
Okay. Yeah.
we're hanging out, we're playing football in the streets, and then we're going in, we're listening to loud music in his bedroom, and we're jumping around like retards and going putting boxing gloves on and going punch each other in the nose. And, this was pretty much like almost every day after school. If my parents would allow me to leave the house, that's where I'm going. Is going over to
Right.
Kevin's, at least to start, and then we might go somewhere else and, come back to Kevin's.
Create
But
havoc somewhere else. Yep.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But there was always, I mean, there was a drum set there, and there was, there's music. It was just like, it was a good place just to kind of start getting into stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And then I started a band. It was my
Sure.
my first ever band, was called Knucklehead, and that was with me and another friend of mine, named Sean Pierce, and he and I both actually joined the military at the same time, believe it or not, and hung out together in Germany of all places. So, but yeah, Sean and I started, Knucklehead, and another friend of mine, I think Bert Hood, which is why you actually remind me a lot of Bert, which is like when you and I met, you're like on Bert's vibe. So I knew you and I were gonna be friends instantly when we
Isn't that weird how the spelling too is
right,
really
yeah.
close?
Bert Hood, Brett Schmidt, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all what single syllable names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's, yeah, it's just it was good. I mean, I look back on I have several periods in my life like many of us do, but I look on every period, I had such fond things that happened. And a lot of times the music was very much the center of all of it.
Oh, yeah.
The Kevin Reeves time, the high school time. I mean, I still talk to all those friends. I visited Kevin last time I was in LA. We
Nice.
hung out, Bert and Kevin, I saw them in Jacksonville once when we went back for a visit. Um yeah, so I mean, still good friends, and then I joined the military, and so, I had a period there where I wasn't into any music. I mean, you go to basic training, you're not playing drums, right? You're, like, trying not to die, you're trying to get through
Right.
what you think is gonna be the scariest thing in the world, but wasn't actually that bad. In retrospect, it was like playing Army in the backyard, but,
Yeah.
when you're young and fresh buck out of high
Oh,
school, you
yeah.
don't know that
Yeah.
how not serious it actually is. But I had a band when I was in Germany as well. And, okay, so if it's all right, I'm gonna back up. So Knucklehead, the biggest claim to fame in Knucklehead. So we had eventually it ended up being me, a guy named, Billy, another Billy, and, Sean Pierce. And we played a show at a place called it was the Middleburg Convention Center, and we opened for several different bands, but the headliner band was a band called Cards and Spokes, which shortly after that show, fired their lead singer and hired a guy named Fred Durst and became Limp Bizkit.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's one of
That's
the
really
coolest, almost touching fame stories that I have.
yeah.
And we were the horrible opening band, but we had a good time anyways. So
Everybody's gotta be one of those.
you got to start out there, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then when I had my band in Germany, so it was me and my roommate at the time, a guy named Ben Jett, so who I still hang out and talk to, and another guy named Terry, who played bass. We actually won like a regional battle of the bands, and we were supposed to go to the USER, which is basically the entirety of Europe, and go to that level of battle of the bands. But I had a decision point in my life because I was actually supposed to get out of the military before that happened. And I decided to get out of the military and go, and that's the very few regrets I have in my life is I feel like I probably should have just stuck with that a little bit longer to see what would happen. And then the same thing with Richard Cranium. The reason that our band broke up was more about a girl that was kind of creating drama in our band, not even any of the band members. And I wish that I had stuck that through and stuck with that band longer because it's still one of the best times that I had in my life. But what's very cool, is that Charles and Mike are actually flying here in the middle of this year, and we're gonna have a Richard Cranium reunion tour or whatever, see if we
Yeah.
can get into a couple of open jams or, play a couple songs here and there. I might book us a full show, who knows? So,
Right.
yeah, that's gonna
Yeah,
be
there's
pretty
plenty
rad.
of chances for showcases, as we know.
Yep,
We all know.
and now I feel like I know a few people around town, so it feels like it might be a little easier to get in and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I got this little interesting thing going on. What do you
Yep.
think?" So
Hey, can we be an opening band again? Right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
What were your earliest influences? Yeah, I mean, we already know, like when you were hearing like the Pantera and the um Sepultura and stuff like that. But I mean, like say what kind of influences other than around your core group?
Well, so I was born in South Florida. So my family lived in West Palm Beach or actually Lake Worth, which is a smaller suburb of West Palm area in South Florida. And when we were growing up, my sister's room used to be right next to my room. And my sister was 5 years older than me. And so she was into different music than I was at the time. But my earliest influences actually were going and taking my sister's, Walkman, the tape Walkman or
Oh yeah.
whatever. And I take her Motley Crue and Ozzy Osbourne and, Winger, Stryper. I mean, all these different kinda '80s hair metal bands, and I would listen to them as I'm laying down to go to sleep at night. And so I really do appreciate a lot of that music, but I don't feel like I feel like when I got to my Kevin stage, when I started forming my own friends, that's when I felt like the music was mine and I owned it.
Right, right.
So I love all that stuff, but yeah,
Yep.
it kinda that was my earliest influence, really.
So you go through the band progressions, um, and then you go to Qatar, and then now you're back in the States. What's your band experiences?
So when my wife and I finally moved our family back to civilization, if you will, in 2013, neither of us really kind of jumped right into music, but we thought about it. We wanted to, but um, we had just lived a life. You know what I mean? We really closed a chapter in our life, and as we kind of landed here, we're really just kind of trying to figure out, well, what's next? What do we want to do next? But then my wife's Uncle Joe, came to stay with us for a while, which was a heaven send for us because I kept flying back and forth to the Middle East at this time. I was still working a lot overseas, so also difficult to kind of get anything really solid going band wise. But Uncle Joe just happens to be a bass player and used to be the bass player in my wife's band when we lived in Qatar. So you've got a bass player, a drummer, and a singer now living in the same house. And so it must have been 2015 that I think the three of us are like, we should start a band. And funny enough, our band was called The Hits and the Misses. So that's where this band actually started, the one that we have now, but a much, much different band. Because Joe and I, our idea was essentially to kind of pick 10 to 15 songs per decade, all the way back to like the 50s, like the most
Okay.
popular stuff, and almost be able to play like a jukebox. Like people could just request whatever they want, and we'd have something, out of that genre, if you will,
Sure.
and play it. But it was also our first time trying to dig into playing with tracks. And although I tried it at the time, we were not very good at it. You know what I mean? Because when you're playing with tracks, as you probably well know, if you go off at all,
Yep.
the rest of the song's a freaking train wreck, you know what I
No,
mean? Or
it's
you're
yeah.
trying to find your way back on. So it was very challenging for us to kinda get it to work right. I was also playing an electronic drum kit at that time, which was nice because I still hit very hard. At least we could keep the volume at a normal level. But we tried that, my wife and I, for a little bit, and we also started an open jam, believe it or not, way back then. And that's how we got to know, kind of our first circle of musicians in Minnesota, was because we did an open jam in Albertville at a place called The Villa, which was an old restaurant that used to be there. And we would do it once, I think it was once a month or once every 2 weeks. And we got a lot of musicians that we still know now that would come and their band would play or they just jam out with us or whatever.
Okay.
And we met a lot of them that way. And um, so that was kind of our first dip into the experience. But we always found, my wife and I, at the time when we were trying to get gigs for our band, it was the same thing that a lot of, us musicians have. I mean, nobody, the band bar doesn't know you. They don't really care about you. You know what I mean? They've got so many
Right.
people that are trying to get on that stage. We had no experience. We didn't have a lot of stuff going for us at the time. So we had a hard time kind of really getting out and getting to know anybody. Um, and so it was really, honestly, it was the Ziggy's open jam and actually just going around to all the different open jams that I feel like really has opened up the community. My wife was also in a band called Revved Up, and you have to give Revved Up a lot of credit because that gave her it was a popular band that gave her front of stage, and so she could show off her stuff, and now people know who she is without even, associating it with our band yet, right? "Oh, Kay's in your band?" And now people will come watch us because they
Oh,
know
good.
she's an amazing performer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the whole line, it's,
Okay.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, that's really neat. I like how, the open jam has kind of been a part of your life. And then now with these open jams, the Ziggies, the Shaws, the Mad Mikes, it really it's a really neat venue for just a musician to get out there, like one who may not be quite into the band thing, but likes to play,
Yep,
likes to jam,
yep.
and it's really a neat way to express yourself in that sense.
Yeah, Mike Frank was on the show recently, and it was it's his episode's coming out this week. It's a very interesting
Oh,
episode.
okay.
First of all, very funny dude.
Oh,
But second of all, just he happened to kind of like fall into the position of starting this thing right as COVID was getting started, and it was the only place that musicians could go. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so people, I mean, you have to wear the mask, you have to stay apart from each other, but just the fact they could get out there and express themselves, it formed a really tight community around that particular open jam.
right, right.
And it's a really interesting story to hear. So I
Yeah,
do highly
interesting.
recommend watching his episode.
Oh, yeah.
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 Plus he's just a giant goofball. So there's got a lot of jokes in there too. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So we know from the intros that, you wanna do these podcasts so you get to know each other because being at these jams and at concerts, it's kinda hard to get to know each other when especially when you're yelling at each other and
yeah,
back and forth, and then you're also trying to enjoy the show
yeah.
in the meantime. But so where did this idea just pop into your head to do these podcasts?
I am a good idea fairy. I come up with good ideas all the time. Half of them I can't afford to do. Uh, I mean, I guess it was really just born in exactly that. It was like I know that as I'm going to the jams, as I'm going to playing shows and I'm meeting these people, like I can tell that I like some of these people, right? I could tell like I think I would get along with this type of person. I think I've even mentioned that to you. Like, man, I feel like we're kindred spirits. We're on the same level. You know what I mean? Um, but you rarely have in a show type environment the opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper. That's one side of it. The other side of it kind of goes back to the question you asked me earlier about how like my wife and I kind of got into the scene here and kind of how challenging we felt like in Albertville. We were in a little bit of a silo. We met 15, 20 different musicians, bands, or whatever in that area, and we liked them all. We're still friends with them now, but that was just us. It was really
That's
difficult.
sort
You're seeing all these other bands that are out there playing and all these bars, all these things going on, and we didn't really know how to break into that. And I feel like the open jam obviously has helped me start that conversation. And my idea with the podcast or it inspires to say I'd like to go even deeper. I really want to know. Now, Gordy, who
yeah.
came in just before me, I guess I'm on the show today, right? Gordy, who came in a little bit earlier today from Rhino, um, I shot a, promo video for their band 3 years ago, maybe,
Oh,
but and Gordy, I've talked to once when he was on the treadmill at Planet Fitness in Maple Grove because we both live in Maple Grove. I walked up and said, "Hey, I think you're the dude from the band that I'm gonna film this weekend."
yeah.
And we talked for 3 minutes, right? But now, today, I actually had a 45-minute conversation with Gordy, and I know a heck of a lot more about who that person is as a human being,
Nice.
and the things that he's done in his journey, and to me, I've always, ever since I was in high school, I've always liked stories and storytelling. Was created videos. I'm a creative mindset or whatever. When I was in high school, when I was in college, when I was in the military, I was a broadcast journalist, and so I'm filming stories on soldiers and stuff out in the field. So it's always been part of who I am, and I love the podcast format because I think it's just such a disarming way. There's 3 cameras here, right? You forget they're there. It's really just two people having a conversation, and it's so fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it came from. And then there's a second piece to it that I really like to talk about that I'm serious about starting that I've only gotten kind of so I wanna build a website because, again, when my wife and I were in this little silo, and I think it still exists now, right? There's a couple people out there, like Allison Merrill with big glasses, and, I'm gonna forget the other guy's name, but there's a couple people out there that are specifically trying to list shows that are going on and helping people kinda but without
Yeah.
them, it's so difficult. I mean, you literally have to go search every single bar. Well, okay, let's search the bar, or let's search by the band and see where this band might be playing. It's so difficult to kinda get a good
Right there.
feel for what's going on. But then also you hear, um some different friends of mine might be like the booking person in their band, and everybody's like, "I don't really know how do I get in touch with this bar? Like, who's the person? How do I what's how difficult is it?" You know what I mean? What do you need to have? And so these are all the types of things that I feel like if there was a website, so this podcast is gonna go into a website. So profiles of all the different musicians, and maybe Brett tells me on the podcast or tells me because now he knows me, hey, I'm actually looking for a new gig. I'm a bass player. That's also a thing I see on a daily basis. You'll see some band post looking for drummer. 10 minutes later, you're seeing a different group, right? So they don't see each other.
Yep.
Drummer looking for a band. And it's like there's no good place for them to connect and cross because everybody's kind of posting all in different places and it's so disparate.
Correct. Yeah. It'd be very similar to the digital version of City Pages.
Mhm.
City Pages was incredible back in the day. You could pick it up at any time and see who's playing this weekend.
Yep.
It was all there.
Yeah.
All the bars, everything that had the bands. So yeah, no, that's be a very neat thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I personally would get as far in to be able to list, like, who's playing where, but I think what Allison is doing and, gosh, I gotta remember the
Right.
other guy's name. They're doing it already, so why couldn't I work with them and they post their things on the
Exactly.
website so
Yeah.
it's already there and more people have a resource,
Yep.
but if I definitely like the musician looking for a band or band looking for a musician, I think this website could be huge,
Yeah.
just to say, "Hey, why." And you can actually go look through the profile of the person, and you can see your
Yeah.
podcast, and you can see who the human being is behind, the bass playing, what your
Right.
experience is like, and that sort of thing. Yeah,
Oh, for sure. That.
and you can see I mean, their vibe. Vibe is such a huge thing, right? When you're in a band, you're marrying 4 or 5 other people, right?
Yeah.
And if you really want it to work, there's gotta be a good gel there. So getting a good feel for who the human is behind it
Exactly.
is probably a good place to start.
Oh, for sure. I think that would be very beneficial to the community as a whole, for sure. So that was kind of part of my next question was where are you going from here? And obviously, I think you maybe just answered that, or is there
Well, there's more.
any other?
There's more.
Okay, good,
So,
good.
I was talking to, Casey Beach, Aaron Cole, Casey Beach are a power couple in town,
Yeah.
right? Casey's an amazing singer, Aaron's an amazing drummer, both great humans. So Casey's gonna come on the show at some point. I've been trying to get her on for a little bit, and then just with the 2 of us were talking, I had this another creative epiphany, like, we should do power couple show. So I'm actually gonna start like a season 2 soon and, or like a side thing where I'm gonna get 3 different couples in. So, like, let's say me and my wife and Casey and Aaron and,
Oh, neat.
Beth and Steve or something like that, and we're gonna play games. and then just have a good time, you know what I mean, or whatever, but do it live. And then I'm also thinking about having, like, maybe the ability to call in, you know what I mean, and have it like if somebody like have like a little Q&A session, a little bit of game session or whatever, but then like a call-in session. So if people we want to actually produce it live, and if people want to call in and be a part of what's going on when it's
Oh,
happening,
cool.
I think that could be neat. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, that's my idea. But like I said, I've got a million ideas, but how practical they are and how well I'm able to put them together.
Yep.
I'm sure if I throw my energy behind it, it'll be great. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, where I'd almost, like to see it go as well would be, um, sort of an introduction to their, because I'm kind of uh, like a gear nut, you
okay,
know? So I like to hear, what other people are doing and how are they getting certain sounds and what are they doing with
that'd be cool.
their instruments, and, obviously I'm more towards the guitar bass side, but I mean,
Mhm.
it would be neat for the crowd to hear, like, um, Kevin Sundberg's was quite interesting to hear the stuff that he was doing with his drums,
Yeah,
and it would almost be neat. I mean, granted, this is a podcast, it's a environment in itself, but it would be neat to, go, you know,
take the show on the
on
road, so to speak.
yeah, take the show on the road and actually go, meet up with Kevin and have him show you all his stuff,
That'd be neat.
that type
Yeah,
of thing.
that'd be cool.
It'd be quite interesting. Like I noticed, like Shad had been selling some instruments and whatnots, and so from the sound of it, he's got some pretty interesting gear, and it would be really neat to see.
Shadow's definitely a gear nut, you know,
Yeah.
he and I have only had a chance to, like, really talk in detail a couple times, but
Yep.
it always turns into guitars and, you know, some of the things he's doing, he just loves his gear,
Yep.
so
Yep. And
I think I've got him coming in next week as well, so,
okay.
yeah,
So yeah,
but I like that, okay, great idea.
yeah. It's a you know it's amazing. The more I think about this with this Minnesota music note, it's not you didn't pigeonhole it to something. It's the music note. What
Yep.
is
Yep, and that's
Minnesota?
exactly what I wanted. I wanted
So
I like
that's
because I want it to be wide. I wanna talk to venues. I wanna talk to booking agents. I wanna talk to people that are putting big shows in town together. I wanna talk to people like Allison Merrill, who's coming in next week, and 'cause she's, you know, I don't even know if she's in a band yet, but she goes to all these things and helps cover them
right.
and takes photos, and, I mean, anybody who really makes up the shape of this community should be
Exactly.
on the show, and yeah, and then we've got a
Exactly.
lot of little spinoffs now that you're throwing my way, huh?
Yeah.
The gear show.
Yep. I guess the only other question besides um the always asked last question. So before that, so what's next for Will and your family?
You know, family is everything. It's why I build the things that I build and, you know, and try to make the money that I make is because I want my whole family to have the opportunities that they deserve. You know, I've got 2 younger kids, and 1, son who just turned 15 and is probably gonna wanna learn how to drive soon.
Oh yeah,
And then
roads.
Yeah, and then, another, 12-year-old is gonna be turning 13 this year, so they're kinda they're both officially teenagers now, so, going through all that, and that's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
You know, so we're definitely gonna stick in Minnesota, if you will, for a while because we wanna give them that stability, and we also love Minnesota, so I think my wife and I, if we didn't have, anything else kinda grounding us, we'd be moving internationally again, and that's
oh
just because we love that experience. Both of us kinda have our eye on Spain as a potential place to move. But I've got my oldest daughter and her boyfriend are now living in Bali. You know, they're kind of living the lifestyle that, you know, my wife and I still think we're 22.
yeah,
We're not anymore.
right. We're all 22 or
We're all 22 in our brain. So,
yeah,
and my antics sometimes, but
yeah. Forever 28. We had a neighbor and she had a Forever 28 party. I don't know. It was when she turned, I don't even know, 35 or something. Anyway, so
I like it. Yeah.
it's always fun. So, okay. So then that leads me to the last question. Who would you want as the next interview?
Huh. I almost feel like that's cheating, you know what I mean? Because I'm
Yeah,
already inviting
because you're the one.
on this show.
Because you get to invite them anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I got invited. So
I mean, I definitely like my wife to be on the show. Um, she's such a just such a tremendous singer and such an amazing front person. Um, I mean, she just commands respect when she's up on the front of the stage. This tiny little powerhouse comes out
yeah,
with something that if you don't know her, you would not expect it to come out of her, and I just really love that about her. And, you know, she has a couple times in her life, and we're not none of us are defined by one facet of ourselves, right? And she has many times tried to kind of reinvent or think about she's gonna go in a different direction with her life, but I have always encouraged her to kinda come back to music, and it's not because I don't want her to be everything else she wants to be, but I think she's got such a talent that she you know, the world needs to hear that,
yeah, they
you
definitely do.
know? And I hope that, you know, um, Beth, Mega Beth was on here not long ago, and I just absolutely loved, this about her interview. She said, "Look, my voice is my instrument, and my instrument ages as I age, and it becomes, you know, it can become more challenging as you get older to save your voice and take care of it or whatever. So she wants to do everything she can right now to be as prevalent. That's why she's in so many bands. That's why she's so active. She's out there because she's got an amazing, powerful voice, and she just wants to use it as long as she possibly can.
Mm,
So I'd like my wife to kind of be in that same mindset, but I'm not my wife, so I
yeah,
can't force her to do it. But I will always encourage her. So I would love to have her on. And then who else?
yeah. I want to say that you're gonna come up with somebody else because I'm sure you've already asked her to be on here.
My wife?
Yeah.
No, I haven't actually.
Oh, really?
I haven't. No, because I know her, and, one, I don't think I would be her interviewer because we live
Oh,
together, we're in a band together, we spend enough time together that it probably wouldn't be the best interview, right? I think somebody else should interview my wife, maybe
Sarah would.
Sarah Kreider could interview my wife, that
Yes.
would be a good one and a fun one. I don't know, man, because honestly, I want every single person in Minnesota who touches music in any way, and this is my real
There we
answer.
go.
I want
That's
every single one
perfect.
of them to be on here, and they will be at some point in time. So one thing I will say, if somebody actually takes the time to watch this interview, is that if I have not contacted you directly, it's not because I don't want to, it's just because I'm going through one person at a time, and it's if you're ready and you wanna be on the show, reach out. I'm literally serious. If you're related in any way to the Minnesota music scene, I wanna hear from you. I wanna hear your story. So,
Well, that is the perfect answer. I'd love to hear that because it's hard. Like when I knew on my interview that I was going to be having to, nominate somebody, and it's like, okay, I didn't want anybody to be mad that I didn't nominate him. Well, I don't think anybody's nominated you, so that's why I went for you. And here we are today. So, but no, that's really neat. I like that you open it up to anybody and everybody.
yep.
That's a great answer.
Cool. Well, that's what we wanna do, man. Let's keep this thing rolling. I love your
Yeah,
ideas. Anybody else out there got new ideas on where we should take the podcast or what we should do, please
yes,
just let me know. Obviously, we can't do all of it all at the same time because of limited resources and time, but I mean, I love ideas. I really just wanna keep
can
this thing going.
entertain any idea.
I'm humbled right now because we have about 538, uh, followers. And
Nice.
and many things that I've tried to do when you start a business, I've done a lot of social media stuff, right? Try to grow things, our band, whatever. It's hard to get people to kind of follow and like. This actually has grown pretty organically. About every day,
Yeah,
about 3 new people click on and like it, and they're 3 people that I don't even know. So it's
nice.
really nice. So I think, I mean, obviously, I'm dipping into your friends and I'm dipping into the other people's friends of the show. But if you're liking it, and everybody who's on here is liking it and watching it episodes, more and more people are
Yeah.
starting to watch it, and it's growing on its own, which I'm really humbled by. And hopefully, I think we're doing a good thing here. So
Oh yeah. I definitely believe in it.
cool, man.
So, well, thanks for being on your show.
Hey there, Minnesota music family. If I haven't personally reached out to you yet, consider this your 100% official invitation. to join me on the Minnesota Music Note. I'm Will McLeod, co-founder of the podcast crew here in beautiful Robbinsdale, host of the show, and the guy behind the kit for the band Hits and the Misses. I started this podcast because I want to get to know the people who make our scene tick. Whether you're fronting a band, spinning hip-hop, running sound, booking shows, running shows, or teaching the next generation of talent, your story belongs here. We've had everyone from videographers to festival organizers on the mic, and we're just getting started. It doesn't matter if you're playing arenas or just making magic in your basement. If you're part of the Minnesota music community, I want to chat. Slide into my DMs or hit the email below, and let's hang out and talk shop.